Hi, this is Jeff. I am AI Art Jack on Civet AI, and I've had a couple of folks reach out to me on Civet AI and ask me what my workflow is for generating textual inversions. I thought I'd give a YouTube video a try. This is my first one, and kind of walk you through my workflow on how I put together the files and the caption and that process in generating the textual inversions that I do. You can see I've done a couple different ones. I'm still really new into this process. There are some folks way more talented out there that I've learned from. And I wanted to just kind of shout out this video here by AI Entrepreneur, if I can pronounce it properly, is the one that really kind of kicked me off. I'd highly recommend looking through this one. This is just full of information that allow you to kind of get to where you're going. Also, the installation process. This next video, I'll also link this one in the description below, but much more in depth, but kind of goes into some of the science behind it. And both of them, I think, are fantastic. When we're thinking about textual inversions, we're trying to teach it to learn something. And one of the things we really need to focus on is getting together our images. All of the images need to be, for at least version 1.5, need to be 512 by 512. These images here, I picked out 14 images. These images I pulled off of a stock photography website that I have a subscription to. And if you look real close, you'll notice there actually are two different models. I do that intentionally when I'm building these ones because I don't want it to be 100% likeness of a real person. Partially because I like to kind of have fun creating something new, but also because I don't own the rights to these pictures for commercial use, and I want to be respectful of the individual models. So my goal here today is sort of a slender, petite redhead, and both of them are close, but they're a little bit different. And then the other thing I do to mitigate that is to make sure that in the training process, and we'll show you that a little bit later on. In that training process, what I'm doing is kind of stopping the training before it gets to 100% likeness. It's sort of more of an art form than it is, a science on this side for me. But I really enjoy it, and that's why I keep making them. So all of these images are 512 by 512 already. I personally, I use either Photoshop or Lightroom to go through. I'm an amateur photographer, so I've got a ton of photos on my computer. And when I go through, I generally go through Lightroom, and then I will resize in Lightroom and export into a folder. But you could use a lot of freeware out there as well. The first tutorial for by AI Entrepreneur shows a couple of different free places to resize images online. But once we have those images, the next thing we need to do is caption those images. And captioning to me, again, is more of an art than a science. I'm going to walk you through. When we go into Stable Diffusion, we have the ability. It used to be when we go into trainings here, this is where we create our textual inversion. But when we go into trainings, there used to be a version, or the earlier version, you used to be able to go ahead and caption. That is all now under extras. The Deep Boorer works for me. I don't have the blip caption model installed, but I have since transitioned over to Koya SS for my captioning, and I'll show you why in a minute. But either way, the same sort of holds through for the captioning. I'm going to run through, and we are going to, for me, I'm going to do this in Koya, but we're going to run through and caption the images. I've already pre-captioned these images, so I'm just going to run through the process and show you. So the uncaptioned folder here is on my desktop, and that's Toot One. And what I'll do is I'm going to go through and just do blip captioning, select my folder, and then I'm going to caption the images. And while that runs through, that'll give us a good baseline. And if we go back and we look into the folder for Toot One, the captions should be there, but they're not. So let me double check here and see what's going on. Sometimes I'll hit it a second time and make sure it is doing what it's supposed to be doing. There we go. Captioning is done. So we'll go back into the folder, and now we'll see the captions are there. And so if we look at that first picture here, and we pull the caption up and put it next to it, it's a woman with red hair in a blue dress. And that is actually what it is. But when we think about what the computer's learning and the AI is learning is all the things that we sort of haven't captioned. So, for example, for this model, I don't want it to know. I don't want it to know that there's a different color than red because I want it to consistently produce a model with red hair. I do want it to know that that she's wearing a blue dress, but there's some other things in here we can see. There's a necklace. There's a background, and when using blank backgrounds, I found it really helpful to let it know that we don't want it to learn that the model is always on a blank background. So I'll put a blank background. Now, the next step I do personally, if I can get this closed, is then I will manually caption these. And that's why I switched to Koya SS, because if you notice, if I'm opening up the screen like this, and then I've got my text editor open, and there's, a bunch of different types of text editors, but it just isn't kind of the most uh, eloquent setup for me to kind of deal with this. So I'm going to go ahead and close these out. Then I'm going to go into manual captioning, and I'll open up to one again, the folder, and then I'll load it. And see what it does here is it allows us to go ahead and manually caption this. Now, what I'll do is I've already captioned these in my previous attempt to make a YouTube video. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up that folder and show you what I did. Just remember, it was a woman with red hair and a blue dress. And we'll go back to desktop, and I will open this one up instead. And you can see what I've done. A woman, and I'll correct that, posing for a picture, wearing a blue lace dress and necklace and a light blue background. And again, you'll notice it's always a woman, but I'm also talking a little bit about it. So this one shows that her eyes are closed. And I'm just trying to, when I do captioning, I try and think of like when I'm in Stable Diffusion trying to generate a photo, what I'm trying to tell it that I'm looking for. So I can kind of share with the computer that all of these things are not. I want it to learn the image of the woman. So again, red cardigan sweater, blue jeans, just adding all those certain things. I had done a textual inversion of my wife early on in the process, and she was sitting on a couch that had a sort of an abstract pattern. And when I ran pictures, I didn't caption out that abstract pattern, so it would show up everywhere, either in outfits or graffiti on the walls. And sort of the computer had learned, or the AI had learned that this sort of abstract pattern was part of what I wanted to learn. So we definitely want to caption out the things that we don't want it to learn. And in the tutorials that are far better than I'm doing, they'll talk about that at length. But for those of you that are just kind of like I was early on, like we just really want to get out there, generate some pictures, get that instant kind of feedback and gratification of seeing our work. That's sort of my goal, to kind of run you through that workflow process. Again, I'm assuming you have everything installed you need to do, but spend a little bit of time on the captioning. I run generally small image sets, so we've got a total of 14 images in this training that I'm doing. So, spend a little bit of time with the captioning. I promise you, you're going to get value out of the captioning. So now that Koya SS is done, and we've got our pictures cropped and captioned, we need to go in and train the model. And I've already trained it, but I'm going to go ahead and retrain it with a different name. And I just always use a prefix of JP. It's like Jeff Photo, but that's sort of how I do it, and then try and give it a random name. If I were to give it an actual name, the concern there is that it's going to learn. Or it's going to actually, when it reads it, it's going to pull from that name. So if I had like JP Brad Pitt and I'm training it, it's going to actually, the words Brad Pitt are showing up in there. So while I'm not 100% sure, my concern is I want to make sure that we're not giving anything in the name that's going to allow it to kind of learn from the previous data sets. The other thing, and I'm glad that I caught myself, make sure you change your model. Uh, I've done it a million times where I've gone in and started training on the wrong model. I want to train on the Stable Diffusion base model. You can train on other models, but for maximum sort of compatibility with models as they come out, I like to train on the base model, and then we'll run through. So I've got the version 1.5 prune Emma only, and then there's some discussion of whether or not you need the initialization text. I never use it based on the toots that I followed, and we are going to call this Toot 1A, because I've already changed train Toot 1. Um, I'm going to go with 12 vectors per token because that's somewhere between 12 and 14. There's some science to this that I don't know, but 12 is good for me. You know what? Why not? We're going to kick it up to 14 because there's 14 images, and I'll go ahead and create that embedding. So it'll be interesting to see what the difference is because the last one I trained on 12. Then we're going to go ahead and click on train, make sure we pull the embedding, and I'm just going to start typing in here. And you can see I've already got toot 1, so we'll do toot A. I have been training on 0.004, and I picked that up off of either a Reddit post or one of the other super talented folks that does embeddings on Civit AI and shares them. Now we're going to go down to our file words. I use subject file words custom, and what does that look like? Well, let's get in here and take a peek and see what we can find on our file words. I'll go ahead and find my Stable Diffusion drive, and we're going to go down here to Textural Inversion templates. So when you look at the subject fileworks text, this is the standard one that comes installed, and it goes through all of these different types of things, name and file word. I personally like to use the file words because I spend the extra time putting the file words into the captioning. But what I've done is I've basically removed a bunch of those. And so the one I saved is custom. All I've got is just a photo, a picture, and a photograph. And that is how I run with it. Batch size, gradient accumulation step. I'm not super good with this. I've seen it, on the tutorials as far as there's some math involved here. I've got a 4090. I'm sure I can run this better, but I've just been sticking with 1-to-1 for now because again, my end goal is to find something that I really like, but I don't want it to look like the same person. Now, max steps, I'm going to go with 2,500. Um, Actually, I'll go with the full 5,000 today. I'll go with 5,000, and then I save an image every 50. And my guess is with 5,000, this is going to overcook, meaning it'll go too many steps. But we'll go ahead and do the max steps of 5,050. I do shuffle the tags, and then I do the point 0.1 dropout tags when creating prompts. I always use the deterministic on this one. So basically, we've got it set up. We've got that. I'm not touching this. I'm not doing anything with grading and clipping, my batch size, my grading accumulation steps. Last thing I need to do is I need to go ahead and give it a reference to the images and the captions. And I've got this one down in toot 1. Let's make sure I've got the right version. Nope, I've got the wrong version. So we're going to go back to training TI, and this one should have the right version that I've got done. Yep, and so we'll just go ahead and grab this and we're going to throw it in. 512 by 512. We don't need to resize because they're already the right size deterministic. And everything else looks good. Double check. I've got the right model that I want to use. And I'm just going to hit train. And then this is going to train for 5,000 steps. It's going to output a model and a image every 50 steps. And as we kind of watch through the first couple are pretty hideous, but you'll start to see it learn. And I'm kind of a geek about this, but I really like seeing sort of this output and kind of getting that instant or semi-instant feedback to what it's training on. And we'll continue and let this run for a couple more steps so you can see a couple more image generations. And we can see that it's picked up the blue in the blue dress. Obviously, we've still got the red hair as this cooks. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to sit here for 24 minutes and have this shoot out all of them. But I'm going to pause for a couple minutes, and then we're going to come back and take a look at what the outputs were. Okay, so we finished training at 5,000 steps. My guess is this is going to be a little overcooked because we I upped from excuse me, I upped to 14 when we went ahead and set up the number of vectors per token versus 12, and then I cooked it for another 2,500 steps to a total of 5,000. So the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to actually want to look at it. I've got some sample prompts in here, but I'll need to change that out a little bit for the new model and get that set up. And then I will also want to change what model I run it on. Uh, there's a couple of my go-tos. Stable Yogi is fantastic, Cyber Realistic Classic, and then the 4.0. But really one of the best out there, in my opinion, is going to be by Epic, and they're all of these are just super talented folks. You can see I've got quite a few in. I just had to prune it because I filled up a full SSD with models. So I'm going to go with Epic Photogasm. It's one of the ones that I normally will test on, and then we'll go ahead and go into our folder here. That's previously generated images for that, but we're going to go down to Textual Inversion. If we go into here, you can see that's the Toot 1A that we just trained. We'll go into the image embeddings. So every 50 steps, we kind of saved it. And you can see as it goes through the training, it really starts to pick up and learn what we're looking for. But on the base Stable Diffusion 1.5 model, they don't look super nice. So again, it's the idea is to train on the base model and then run it on the other models because they're all trained off of that base model. So the first thing we're going to want to need to do, or first thing that we're going to need to do, is go ahead and grab these embeddings. So I'm just going to go ahead and select all of these from my training folder, and then I'm going to copy and paste them back up into the embeddings folder where all of your final embeddings are. You'll notice the 1A is there. That's the final model at the 5,000 steps. And I will just go ahead and paste those in here. And it sure wants to be slow, but we'll give it a second to go ahead and paste those. And then we'll, oh, probably using too much RAM. Let's try this again. But once we get all of those images in there, what we're able to do is, yeah, that didn't copy over. We're able to kind of run them and look at them. I like to do it that way. There's other ways to look at it, but I really enjoy kind of seeing what we're creating. Let's try this one more time. So we'll just copy and paste those back into the embedding folder. And there we go. We've got all 5,000 in here. So now how are we going to run through? We've got, we've done a model at every 50. How are we going to run through that? I'm a nerd. I like to use Excel, and I use Excel for my prompts as well, with a mix between. Um, I've just got tons of prompts, but I like to kind of randomize things. But what we'll do is we'll go into my TI test prompts, and then I've set it up like this. I know that it's Toot 1A, so we'll do that. And then I've just got raw with some camera settings. And I know, for example, Photogasm, I don't need all of this in here, but I like to do, compare apples to apples. And I'm going to run this through a couple of different models. And all this equation does in Excel is it says, hey, we're going to take this and insert this in between them. And I'll just drag that down. So we'll go ahead and it's already done it for us, but um, muscle memory says I'm going to drag it down. So I'm going to copy and paste these, and we're going to go right into Stable Diffusion with it. And then always I choose seed, a random seed, and then prompts from file or text box. We'll paste that in. One of the things I like about the newer versions is you notice where it says here insert prompts at the start or the end. We can actually add, if I wanted to add a lure in here or something else to come after each one of the prompts, we'll do it. But with that, I'm just going to keep these settings the same. We're going to run for 30 steps, and we've got quite a few pictures to run. Actually, before I do that, because I've got some other folders in the file, let me do this. Here's a trick I'll use sometimes when I'm trying to uh, look at a couple of different models that I've trained at one time, and I just, like the old with ROM appeal thing, set it and forget it. I'll just paste them all in, but I'll put photo of a sign with next model on it and run that so that when I'm going through my image generation files, it'll give me something that just lets me know that I'm on the next model. That's just a little thing that I like to do. Okay, so we've got them all set up with the right thing, and we're gonna hit it and see what happens. So this first one is going to be the fully cooked model, and then the each iteration afterward is going to be from the beginning on. And we can already tell we've got like this great redhead, the pale skin, and that's really the look I'm going for. Again, my goal isn't to train the actual person because I want to have some flexibility. And to me, that's part of the art form of this is finding something that I find aesthetically pleasing, that's new and is not an actual person. But I know some folks really enjoy creating, the most realistic likeness of another person as they can. So I'm going to go in here to my output folders, and I'm going to grab images from today. This is my first training, and I'm just going to show this as a reference point because this will be the same at 2,500 steps, um, with 12 vectors per token. And this one, so this is the first one I did that you're not seeing, but it's 2,500 steps, 12 vectors per token. This is 5,000 steps at 14 vectors per token. And we can kind of see, I think both of these are really good pictures. But as we move over to 50, you can see some differences here. Again, no real likeness to the actual model, and I'll pull her up in a second, and we can kind of make some comparisons. So that's 100 on the first one. That's 100 on the second. I really love the hair and the jaw. She's got this nice petite figure. So let's go ahead and kind of take a peek at the training images, and we'll grab just a headshot and kind of see what we're looking at. Okay, so we go through, and I really do like the outputs. I think she's got a great look. We do have that sort of. I love the square jaw and the chin, but they're not exactly the same. And again, that's the goal. The nose is a bit different here, and that's the goal. And this is early on in the training as we continue to go through. I'll have to refresh this because it doesn't always update. But as we continue to go through all of these, you'll see it become more and more of a likeness. Also, a good thing to remember is that I did put in two models into this, but it's heavily weighted towards the first. So you'll see some variation, and the more pictures of multiple people you put in there, I think the harder it is for it to learn, but it does create some interesting things for you, um, and allows you sort of that flexibility and creativity to create what you want. And I'm of the opinion that this truly is an art form. I'm sure that painters said when the first photographer came out that that's not art, but there's an art to the prompt. There's also it's about what you find aesthetically pleasing and what you're able to create, and sharing that. So I feel like we're kind of, it's a brave new world out there. So we've got some, I think, some really great pictures, and that's the hardest part for me is picking which one I want to choose, because obviously I don't want it to be too much. And then we'll run it through a couple of different models to find some additional consistency, and see that, make sure that we're getting sort of the same look. Each model is going to skew a little bit different based on the training set that it's been trained on. Um, this is yeah this is interesting as well. So we've got quite a few to choose from. And that's the great part about making your TI is you get to kind of choose which one you want. My guess is by the time we get to 5,000, it's going to be a little bit overcooked. Well, we're just about there. If you'll hang on with me for another minute, we'll take a peek at all of them together. But we've got a good set of images here, and just kind of choosing through which one you like. Of course, you got to love, obviously it's still AI, and we get all sorts of errors in there. I don't really heavily negative prompt. I think I learned that off of Epic, the Epic Photo Gasm model, the creators page. It was really had something written down there about not doing too much on the negative prompts, but you get some great looks. And that's just a fantastic look, I think. I like that one a lot. And so one of the easy ways to figure out what we're looking at is we'll go back in here and just go to PNG info, grab the image, And let's see which one we want to grab. We'll just grab one of them. I'm going to grab this one. So we can tell this is at 2,000 steps. So 1A at 2,000 steps. And so at that point, what you can do is run it through a bunch of different prompts, and it'll kind of give you an idea of what it's going to output. I'm going to wait for it to finish, and then what I'll do is I'll pause this for a couple minutes. I'll set up some prompts, and then I'll have it run through a couple of different models, and we can kind of see the difference there. So hang with me, and we'll be right back. Okay, so I'm going to stick with Toot 1A 2000, and now my goal is to run it through. I'm going to use the same seed, so we'll generate the picture that we're going to start with. This is on the Epic Photogasm Z Universal model, and then I'm just going to go down here into Script, into XYZ plot, and I'm going to run it through a couple of different checkpoints, and we'll grab them. So I will do. I'll just run through a couple. Whoops. Got some new ones on here. And so I forgot to do this, but let's do this real quick. I'll copy this. Actually, we'll be fine. I'll just I'll put a note in there. So now this is going to run through this specific embedding through a couple different models, and we'll take a peek at the output here. Got a little bit of an anime vibe coming out, but still sort of the same look. You know, again, my goal is this sort of palish, slender redhead with that square jaw. And I think, you know, I feel comfortable there's enough variation between this and the model that we're not recreating the actual person. But of course, if you stare at it long enough, you'll see whatever your eyes want to see. We'll go back. This is the reference photo from the Epic Photogasm that we ran it on. And we've got a fairly consistent look. Obviously, you know, the prompting is, whoops, that's the wrong one. Bear with me here. So that's the Photogasm. Again, depending on the model, we'll get some artifacts from different models. So we get a little bit of copyright. We can take care of that in the negative prompts. But so we've got um, a good variation here, and I'm pleased with it. So my next step is going to be to upload up this into Civet AI and share it with you. Hey, thanks so much for watching. For those of you that have got a lot more experience than me, please feel free to share your tips and tricks in the comments below. And I'd love any feedback you have. Once again, bear with me. It's my first video, probably way too long. And hopefully you got some value out of this. Thank you.